Hey guys, welcome back to the land of books and movies. This week's video is a Bookless movie review and a What Were They Thinking? And it's about Van Helsing from 2004. Coming from the same director as The Mummy, which was a fun adventure with cool special effects. It looked like it could have been interesting. All the classic monsters together. At the center of it, Van Helsing, assuming it's the same Van Helsing from Dracula, who was apparently a monster hunter for the Catholic Church before he was ever a doctor. And then it wasn't interesting. All the monsters and Van Helsing were strung together with a story that was very silly. Let's dissect all this goofiness, starting at the beginning with a pitchfork and torch attack on Castle Frankenstein, just as the doctor is successful in the creation of his monster. Not because he was trying to supersede death, but because Dracula had invested in him, and it's for him and his harem, and apparently evil. Okay. Cool special effects follow, and we cut to a very silly face-off between Van Helsing and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that we know is not in the books, but is there to set the tone. Next is a silly assignment from the church to a silly village in Transylvania, accompanied by a silly friar and inventor. When he gets there, the silly Dracula brides attack in broad daylight. They morph into these silly looking anthropomorphic bats and say silly things as they attack. Van Helsing kills one, and the silly village is divided over whether this is a victory or an antagonism, since before this, they were all perfectly content to let them pick off one or two of them a month. Very silly. Running concurrently with this silly story is a silly werewolf hunt that lacks rhyme or reason except association with Dracula, who they were okay with letting pick off one or two villagers a month for sustenance. But this makes no sense either. But, however, once Anna's brother becomes a werewolf, they have to keep hunting Dracula because he has the cure for werewolfism. Where is this connecting? And his silly reason for needing werewolves in the first place and withholding the cure, he uses other monsters, like charging batteries, to hatch his hundreds of little bat babies. Unfortunately, the werewolves aren't doing the trick, so the Frankenstein monster is the best bet for them to live. And on more than one villager a month, I might add. When they find the silly Frankenstein monster, he is the one who tells Van Helsing that Anna that those hundreds of slimy, decrepit egg sacs hanging from the ceiling from Castle Dracula are from one single birthing. I would hate to see that very silly delivery. I can't even begin to picture it because it makes the least sense. So much so that it is a deficit of sense, not just an absence of it. I touched on this in my Walking Dead video, something that is dead will not have cellular mitosis and will not feed, heal, grow, develop, or reproduce. This makes no sense. The next silly things that, also makes no sense is all of Carl's research. He finds all these scrolls that, pull down like window blinds, that the reason Dracula is what he is and all the why is that he's the evil son of Anna's several times great granddad, and he just couldn't kill him for all the evil things he did, so the devil made him an immortal bloodsucker who can only be killed by a werewolf. There are too many more silly little moments to cover in a video of reasonable length, so we'll cut to the silly final battle and silly endings. Getting their hands on the cure for werewolf includes Anna catching it midair while Tarzan's swinging on a rope about as thick as this glass of water. Well, she has to hang on to it with one hand and maintain her grip so her own weight doesn't sink her. I don't know how many of you had to rope climb during gym class. It's not just get your hands on there and pull yourself up. You also have to engage every muscle in your upper body. And she's swinging from this thing with her feet unattached and by one hand on a rope about this big. And while doing all this, catches the needle in the other hand with the antidote in it. And I will give her credit for one thing, killing Alira while she was monologuing and calling her out on it. All the while, Van Helsing and Dracula are shifting repeatedly and having a bat and wolf fight, and there is conversation had that doesn't make any sense. Dracula calls him Gabriel. So now they're resuming being on a first name basis, and there is contention over a stolen ring and a missing finger that wasn't noticeable anywhere else in the movie leading up to this. But enough of all this silliness. Here comes Anna with the antidote, and Van Helsing crushes her while she's administering it. And then we see her up in heaven with her family in an ending that mirrors the one from Happy Gilmore. And so ends the silliness of Van Helsing. It's a fun popcorn flick if you really can just turn your brain off. Thank you for joining me again this week. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit up my affiliates in the description. I will see you next Book and Movie.